Okay, George, I believe you're ready to start.
Okay, cool. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. And as you can see, this is a professionally run webinar, not compared to ours. So please save all your questions for the end, and then we can have a Q&A. So the reason we decided to go with this topic, because obviously post-stroke, if not all of us, most of us have financial um, matters that need resolving. And also, a lot of us don't go back to work. We end up with disabilities. So, just knowing what you can and what you can't claim against, I think that's beneficial to us. So, yeah, I think I'll let Dovi, our expert, take us through that. And yeah, please. Pay attention in class. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for hosting us. And I just want to say to the audience, there's many people that we do work with, and George has just been exceptional in terms of being so keen and so eager, really putting his audience first and trying to understand what will be of most assistance to the audience, how do we get it out to the audience. And George, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I know I didn't work with you directly, but my colleague Yoda did, and he said it was an absolute pleasure. So thank you for hosting us and for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. So today's topic is stop missing out on medical tax refunds. And the reason why I named it that is I am being a bit presumptuous, but after going to market and being in the game for multiple years, I've seen how many people are missing out on these medical refunds which are available from SARS. Today we're going to go into what you can claim, who qualifies, and lastly how at Stratfin we assist families with these claims. So just a little bit about Stratfin. We're a tax solution company. We focused on how to maximize taxes, whether at company level, in payroll, or in your individual tax. And the solution that we are most focused on is our medical tax refund. Um, I would say it's honestly out of all the opportunities as taxpayers that we get, if this one's applicable, it definitely is hands down the best the best opportunity to optimize. And in many cases, we've seen that it can completely wipe away your entire PAYE that your company's been paying on your behalf, or the tax that you've been paying on your behalf, and uh, you can go from paying a lot of tax money to absolutely zero. We're going to go into quite a bit of detail today, starting off with the theory and then the practice. And if you do lose me in the theory, please not to worry because the practical will be quite clear. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus it as a general topic. And even though I know that not all the disabilities that I'm going to talk about are relevant to this crowd, to you guys, but it can be very relevant to a cousin, to a friend. And another thing that's important to note is that when we talk about a person with disability, it doesn't need to be the taxpayer themselves. It can be anyone in the family navigating this disability. So if you are attending this webinar as someone who looks after someone with a disability or an impairment, or dealing with post stroke symptoms and the challenges that come with that, this is also very, very relevant to you. So, yeah, where I think a good place to start with is just understanding the financial year. The way the South African financial year goes, it starts in March. Let's just go the last financial year, March 2025, and ended in at the end of Feb 2026. That's a 12-month period. And in between March 2026 and July today, there's an opportunity that the companies get a chance to submit your RP5. The medical aid tax schemes are submitting your medical aid tax certificates to SARS, you collecting your Section 18As if it's relevant, which is a charity tax deduction, and then in around July 13th, SARS open up for doing a tax return. Or if you're auto-assessed, which is also very common and becoming more and more common in South Africa, already from I think it was the 7th of July, is we auto-assessment started. What happens is that during this tax season, SARS will look at your medical spend over the last tax year, the 2026 tax year, which once again started in March 2025. They'll look at all your expenses from March 2025 to Feb 2026. They'll look at how many members are on the medical aid and what your out-of-pocket expenses were, and if you have other medical expenses which weren't submitted to medical aid, that is something that they'll also look at. And when we say they'll look at that, what that means is as follows. It's broken up into two sections. It's broken up into your Section 6A of the Income Tax Act, and that is that of per member that you have on your medical aid, you'll get roughly 300 Rand back per month. So say you have a family of four, and there's and they've all been on the medical aid for the last 12 months. You'll get 300 times 4, which is 1,200 times 12, which comes to roughly 14,000 Rand. That's what you'll get back in your Section 6A when you're doing your tax return, or if you're auto assessed, you'll get that refund back from SARS, and SARS will pay it directly into your account. Then the more exciting one, but also the more complex one, is your Section 6B. In your Section 6B, people are getting anything between 0 and as much as 25% back on their medical spend, which is inclusive of the medical aid premium, and your out-of-pocket expenses. Those are the expenses that were not covered by the medical aid. And SARS will give you back a percentage of that. Okay? Now, how do they determine that percentage? That percentage is determined based on your income bracket. The more you earn, the less you get back in your Section 6B. And the less you earn, the more you get back in your Section 6B, with one caveat, and that is that you can never get back more than the tax that you've paid. So even if you've had a few 100,000 Rand of medical expenses and you're eligible for a high percentage of that back, say maybe as much as 20% back, which is roughly 60,000 Rand. If you haven't paid more than 60,000 Rand to tax over the year, you can never get back more than 60,000 Rand, you get capped. So the Section 6B there's a window. It's very much depends on how much you earn as well as how much tax you paid, and you can get a percentage of this back. Now, this is independent. This is irrespective of whether there's a disability or impairment in the family. Every family in South Africa is entitled to a medical rebate, which is broken up into your Section 6A and your Section 6B. Okay. George, will you just stop me if I haven't been clear or something that needs to be clarified?
I think you need the ability to read the room. So if the people have got their cameras on and you can see their faces, you should be able to gauge whether they're understanding and following.
So you
I
know
can't
what?
see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I also can't see.
Okay.
Maybe we can just maybe we can just get some thumbs up if we follow me until yeah.
I think,
Okay,
okay.
as I said, if you miss me in theory a little bit, that's also okay because the practical will be quite clear. Okay,
Okay.
so to summarize what I've said so far is that as a taxpayer in South Africa, irrespective of um, a medical condition in the family, an impairment in the family, that taxpayer is entitled to a certain amount of money back when they do their tax return or their auto assessment. Okay. Now, what happens is as follows, and this is really where the magic starts to happen. When there's an disability or an impairment or medical condition in the family, even with just one person in the family, what happens is as follows. If it's in any of these six categories, and really what I say to people is that if someone is being affected moderately to severely in their day-to-day life because of a medical condition, it will always fit into one or even more categories that SARS are looking for. But even with just one person and even just ticking one category, it unlocks a massive amount of financial liberty that wasn't there previously, which we're going to go into those amounts just now. But before I do that, I just want to talk about what does SARS recognize as a impairment or disability to honor a higher a medical credit when you're doing your tax return or when you're being auto assessed. First category is intellectual. In the intellectual category, you have all people struggling with learning challenges or any any limitation that a person is having on an intellectual front. And George, maybe you can give me some common examples that you're seeing from the Survivor Foundation of
So,
intellectual impairments or disabilities.
so it's quite common for a stroke survivor to end up with cognitive disability. So, I'm not quite sure how cognitive fits into intellectual, but we are affected. So, um, I'm just looking at your other points there. Um, so if a stroke survivor ends up with aphasia, where would that fall? Where they can't, would that fall under communication?
Communication.
Okay.
And George, as I mentioned, SARS's main question is a person being affected moderately to severely, whether in their social life or in their work life? And you'll then find a category to plug it onto. And even if it can overlap into two categories, you just need to find one category to plug it
Uh,
into, and a medical practitioner needs to sign off on that, and then you're good
so
for the additional
quite
rebate.
quite commonly, we have quite a few of the stroke survivor who end up being medically boarded by their company. Now
Yeah.
obviously, it's the ones that work for companies that have that insurance, but yeah, it's very common to lose your job after your stroke.
Mm. And that would 100% qualify because, again, SARS are looking, the example that SARS bring is even if someone has an occasional panic attack, that would fall under mental health. Do you know what I'm saying? Or
Okay.
if someone's limited physically, and that's in any one, SARS clearly saying any one of their upper limbs, and even if they can walk but can't walk long distances, you know, and they don't need assistive devices, but they struggle with walking. So there's so many examples that I would find it hard to believe that anyone as part of your organization would not fall into one of these categories. And really where to from here is to say to the medical practitioner, where would I fall under here? And noting that SARS aren't requesting for it to be severely affecting a person, moderately affecting a person would also qualify.
Okay.
Okay. Now, once that box is ticked, there's a medical condition that's affected a person. What happens is as follows. SARS will now give, independent of your earning, they'll now give you back 33% of your full medical spend back. So previously, a taxpayer was eligible to as much as 25%, but often got back nothing and on average got back maybe 5-10%. They are now eligible to 33% of the full family's medical expenses. And breaking that down, medical expenses can be your medical aid contribution. If you're paying, or the taxpayer is paying, um, say 5,000 Rand a month to medical aid for the family or for the individual, that taxpayer can now get back 33% of that full medical aid contribution. Out of pocket expenses, this is the expenses that you did submit to medical aid, or even if you didn't submit it, but you have proof of payment and the medical aid didn't cover, they didn't pay you for it, you can now get back 33% of that. For because I often talk to parents of remedial schools, that's why I brought it here as a bullet point. Remedial schooling is considered a medical expense. But similarly, any time a person is is needs to be go into institution or hospitalized or even some sort of rehab or whatever it is, even if the rehab is um, a place where you're paying for your boarding and for your sleeping and all of that, that's all now a medical expense, and that could all qualify as a medical spend which you can get back 33% of. Even something like travel. If travel to your medical professional or travel related to the medical condition, sometimes you can't drive anymore. Now you're paying for Ubers, or you have to pay a personal driver, or you need to see a practitioner who lives more than 10 kilometers away once or twice a week. Whatever the examples that may come off a medical condition, if the rule of thumb is that if the expense is related to the medical condition, that expense is viewed by SARS as a medical expense and not as a general expense. So even for example, um,
Would that
assistive
would
device,
that
yeah,
would that cover your rehab?
100%. You can get back 33% of your full rehab expense.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, 33%, and that's massive because when you need to give yourself or your loved one the best shot at recovery, and you can get back 33% of that, that really is a game changer when knowing that there is this financial liberty and the opportunity to claim back that 33%.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Anything on that on those points that Georgia that you find very relevant in terms of medical expenses related to um,
Mhm. So
strokes?
I don't know if this surprises you, but one of the biggest reasons that people do not um, keep up with their rehab is because of the costs, the transport costs.
Sure.
So, if you can get a third back on that, it may alleviate that a bit and make it,
Mm.
more worthwhile. So, I think a lot of this
Yeah.
is not known by the general population, these
Yeah,
kind of
it's
rebates.
interesting you say that. Like I've spoken to many accountants and medical aid brokers, which you would think they are in the space of finances and medical, and you would think that they would know this, but it's interesting to see how few people know this, and it could be because like like SARS call it when you do your tax return, if you do your own one, you'll see there it says, is anyone in your family disabled? And commonly you think of someone as disabled as someone in a wheelchair, and and for some reason it's people view it as something not common, but it is a lot more common than people can imagine. I think a recent stat came out um, in America about how many people would qualify for disability, and that stat is massive. It's like 1 in 5. Whether it's in any of those categories, intellectual or physical. Even something like sleep apnea could qualify as a medical
Well,
condition and an impairment.
so
Yeah.
Dovi, uh, as Stroke Survivor Foundation, we also part of South African Disability Alliance. We're the only stroke organization that are part of that Disability Alliance. And I think the general misunderstanding when you talk about disability, like you rightly said, people say, oh, okay, in a wheelchair, okay, I can see you disabled. But there's a physical disability and then there's a hidden disability. And those are the ones that people are not aware of and
Mm.
don't really know how to deal with them. So obviously SARS, I think we need to go and give a little talk to SARS and tell them, you've got to expand on the term disability
Mm.
because a hidden
Mm.
disability, somebody with dysphagia, that's hidden. You
Mm.
can't see that. The person could walk
Yeah.
fine, and then people say, no, you're not disabled, but then they can't
Mm.
communicate. So, I think they need to elaborate on the
And you
disability.
know what? You know what, George? You and I both know that SARS, SARS have done a great job in covering this benefit,
Yeah,
covering it up. You know, but like, and I think I'm doing a great job in exposing it.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, so like, it's frustrating to see, and like and then we play. This is the next part of like, okay, so now that there is someone who has a claim, how do you go about doing the claim? And because that SARS have made it so hard to get the claim over the line, we've put together a team of about 15 people which just sit there dealing with claims all day, every day, playing ping pong with SARS to get it over the line.
Yeah,
Because SARS are there protecting their money, the money which doesn't belong to them. And, like, and they, like because we've been in this game and we know this game, we know how to get it. And the first thing we do for clients is we always do a backdated claim because most people don't know about this benefit. When they do have a conversation with us, most often they've already been struggling for 3 years. And the first thing we do is we do a backdated claim for the last 3 years. So we'll claim back year 25, year 24, year 23, sometimes even year 22 before we even do year 26. So, and we can get back all those funds which have been left on the table for the last few years.
really. So,
Mm.
so, so how far back can you go?
A minimum of 3 years, sometimes
Okay,
even further.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah, the next thing we do is we always have a holistic approach. Like, who do we do the claim under? Which spouse, if relevant, is the best person to do the claim under? Which we look at how much is each of them, how much uh, is the taxpayer paying in tax, where the funds for the medical coming out of, and we do a claim in a very holistic way, seeing the full family package and who's paying for what and where we can get the most favorable outcome, which is also very
okay,
important. We recently helped a parent which um, had 3 children neurodiversity, and because he had misstructured his his medical aid, he put the medical aid in his wife's name, and his wife was a home mom dealing with 3 neurodiversity children. He got back nothing from SARS, and we went back and we undid what was done in the mom's name. We did it in the dad's name, and we managed to recover about a few hundred thousand rand. So it's very, very important to just
wow,
have a full view. And then we streamline the admin process because you need to collect statements, you need to get your medical aid tax certificates, all of those things. We've got a back office which does almost everything for you, and we put together that full stack of documents that we need to get the claim to SARS. And then once it's given over to, once we submit it to SARS, we then play ping pong until we get the claim over the line, deal with
okay.
all the correspondence back and forward,
Mm.
give them exactly what they want and get it done. Obviously because we know what they're looking for, generally we get it over the line first time. But there's no rules, sometimes claims can take 11 months I've seen, sometimes it can take 2 weeks. So really there's no rules, and I really do pride our team in knowing exactly what SARS are looking for, getting it the closest to right first time. But if it's not right first time, then we'll follow the correspondence until we get it over the line. And
I
yeah,
mean,
that's really yeah.
I guess it boils down to the old adage, it's not what you know, but who you know.
That as well. If we see a client who's just been neglected for like over the period of time that SARS they always give themselves like 21 working days. We call someone in at SARS, we're like, escalate, and we get it done
Okay,
like this. Yeah. So obviously we can't manipulate anything at SARS, but in terms of escalations, we have contacts which can definitely escalate.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I've covered almost everything, and I think the most relevant, if I had to summarize, the one biggest take home is there's a team of us which are happy to help, happy to answer questions, happy to assist. You don't have to use our services. If we do the claim for you, you keep 80%, we keep 20%, and
So there's
and
no
um,
initial upfront fee or anything like that.
Yeah, no
Okay,
initial upfront fee, and yeah, we take clients on at risk, and even if you just want to ask questions, we're happy to answer any questions that you have. and just do our best to guide you through the process. So, yeah, my main message is take action. Taking action can be as simple as responding. We'll have a WhatsApp which will go out afterwards with action points. It's just responding, clicking that button on WhatsApp, saying, "Cool, contact me," and then that's it. And see where it leaves you. Please God, it can be something significant.
Okay.
Mm.
Davi, thank you. I think what is appreciated most is that it's short and sweet. So,
Yes.
we didn't all have to extend our and overheat our brains trying to follow you. So that's
Yeah.
great. Are we able to take questions?
Yes. There's a
Only
few
typed
questions there, George.
questions. Okay.
There is a way for candidates to unmute themselves. If you request to unmute, you will be able to unmute yourself. Jenna will give you permission to talk, so you can do that. Otherwise, you can type. And once again, if you have a question you're not comfortable to ask, in this forum, you can just follow the WhatsApp and it will be answered there. So I'm just going through some of the questions. Firstly, I do apologize. I see there was a message for me to talk louder. I do really apologize. I only saw that now. Um, then there's a question here, can gym qualify? 100%. A gym can definitely qualify as a medical spend. We might need a letter from a doctor explaining why the gym is required for the medical condition, but for sure, gym could qualify. Caregivers, I didn't mention, can qualify. And once again, the basic rule is the person being affected in their day-to-day life, and is the expense related to that medical condition? And then that would qualify. Um, okay.
Okay.
Another question over here.
So before we go on to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the caregiver part of that question. So can I say my wife is my caregiver?
Excellent question. The SARS registration is very, very specific about who can be a caregiver, and they put there
Okay.
not the mom and not
Okay.
the granny.
Okay.
Yeah, but and they're also very, very specific. Like if it's a house domestic, that they if they're washing dishes and sweeping the floor as their primary, or even if it's a secondary SARS, will then say, well, then it's not a caregiver.
Okay.
So again, it's hard to know exactly. Will always be the gray window, but family unfortunately can't be considered a caregiver.
Okay.
That would be a great angle, but unfortunately SARS have capped that.
I had to whisper that because if my wife heard me, I'll be phoning for an ambulance.
At least we can get money back from that ambulance.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Next question.
Okay. Next question is, there's a question here about travel. With Ubers, it's very simple. You can get a statement from Uber, or receipts. For a car, there's a hack which you can do, and the hack is that if let's say your travel is to the rehab, so you can put into your Google Maps the distance between your home and the rehab, and you can screenshot that as your travel, and then times that by the days that you've traveled there and back from the rehab, and that can be an easy way to make a logbook. We do assist with making logbooks as well, though,
And
because it can become quite complex.
the rate, is that done at AA rates?
Yeah, AA rates. So you put in the car and you then
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so there's a question here in terms of what tax bracket you need to be to get the refund. This is quite a hard one to answer because it's not exactly a tax bracket, because it's very correlated to the amount you've spent and the tax bracket that you're in. You can never claim back more money than you've paid SARS. And as mentioned before, even without disability, you get back a percentage. So sometimes if you're a low taxpayer with very big income, with very big medical expenses, so sometimes even without disability, you're already getting back such a significant amount, and then doing this exercise won't actually result in anything significant. Once again, it's very hard on the webinar to give you the exact maths and you know But if you speak to anyone on the team, they can have a quick squiz at your income tax assessment of your last financial year, and they can give you a calculation of what you can get back. So you're welcome to do that. Okay. Obviously, like it's, if you're going to be getting back only a few hundred rand, or like the exercise can sometimes become a bit, a bit irrelevant because it's too much of an admin headache to actually try to recover that fee. So it's always good to know upfront what you can get back.
Okay.
Okay. There's okay. There's a point over here. Um,
I see a lot of them are wanting a PDF of the presentation.
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, Jenna, are you able to maybe when we put together the recording, maybe we can have one link which goes to both the PDF summary as well as a recording summary, and then yeah, also a number for exact action points if someone wants to be helped. But like I say, even if you don't follow everything, you don't have to listen to the recording again. You don't even have to listen to anything. You can just say, I was interested in the webinar. Can I talk to someone on your team? Someone on the team will be very happy to assist and help you.
Okay.
So, often that's the easier route than trying to read through a PDF and listening to a webinar. Sometimes you just want to talk to a person and they can talk to you about your scenario, your case, and just give you the accurate answers.
And then you guys do have a national footprint. If you can just tell us again what areas you cover.
So Joburg is our primary because our offices are based in Joburg. Naturally, our connections are based in Joburg. But we really we've got a national footprint because we connect with organizations which are national. So for example, Cochlear Implant Center, there's 11 branches across the country. When we do a webinar with them, it gets shared with all of their branches. Similarly with remedial schools which have got multiple branches across South Africa, and all the different neurodiversity centers. There was, that also got multi-province footprint. So yeah, really we follow our partners' footprint, and that's where we work. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
whoever hosts us for a webinar will then assist their community and wherever they are in the country. As long as they're a South African taxpayer, we can help. If you're not a South African taxpayer, then
So
maybe you've got a better outcome, but we won't be able to help you.
Lillian will definitely want to know if she can contact somebody in Quebec.
Definitely.
Okay, there you go, Lillian. Before you
Yeah,
even
it's
ask.
true that all our work is done remote, so like it's really like, yeah, we're not limited to being anywhere.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Great. I think we've covered almost everything, and like I said, if we didn't, there's a number, and everyone can be in touch, and we're happy to assist.
All right. So the WhatsApp that you've responded, the WhatsApp number that you responded to all the people registering, they can WhatsApp you on that number and
Yeah, and
contact
also
you.
there'll be a WhatsApp which will go out shortly, which will say with exact action points. Easier to just follow the action points and it goes directly to the right
Okay.
address as opposed to asking questions there. If you say yes, please contact me, someone will call you and you can just talk directly to one person as opposed to
Okay.
talking to a WhatsApp line and then gets handed over to a client manager, etc.
Excellent.
Mm.
Thank you so much. I think
Thank you. Thank you for
we've
hosting
all
us.
been made aware of certain things we weren't aware of, and I hope we
Amazing.
could have taught you something about strokies and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hidden
It's
and
always humbling when I need to talk about topics that I'm not familiar with, and I'm like, oh
uh,
no, what am I going to do this? You know?
uh,
Um, so
yeah,
yeah, I did
and
learn something.
yeah, gone are the days where strokes only happen to people in their 60s and 70s. People a
Yeah,
lot younger have been affected.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much,
Okay, good.
and
Awesome. Thank
we'll be
you.
in touch. Thank you, everyone, for
Okay,
joining us.
great. Awesome. Okay,
Okay.
cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.